In the iconic opening scenes of Pumping Iron, the ballet instructor putting Arnold and Franco through their paces points out that it's the in between moments of the poses that are just as pertinent as hitting the pose itself. It's a deliberately incongruous scene, purposefully crafted and chosen for both audience impact and illustrative of the lessons forthcoming. There's the implication that mastery requires total ownership of one's craft, and highlights that a champion is willing to do whatever it takes to be the best in their field. It also demonstrates that the moments on stage are more than just about the mandatory poses. The audience are watching and judging those liminal transitions from one moment to the next. Likewise, on life stage, it's not just our resume or achievements, but also those in-between moments that we're being observed and judged for our actions, our choices, our values, even when we're free of the spotlight and we think that no one is watching. Arnold has undoubtedly lived the most amazing life. Whether it's bodybuilding or acting, two fields in which he dominated and redefined, there will never be another Arnold or anyone who even comes close to possessing a similar life resume. Arnold may downplay the label of self-made man, but I think he's being unnecessarily self-deprecating in that regard. No one lifted the weights, learned the lines, maintained the discipline, or surmounted the impossible odds to achieve any of these things without a level of insane, self-driven effort. And while no man's an island and we rise and fall based on our human connections, the ability to network effectively and avoid the exploitative charlatans and shitbags on the minefield to success is yet another skill developed through hyper self-awareness, intelligence, and careful discernment. No one handed those skills or traits to Arnold. He did it by himself and for himself. Arnold's as self-made as any man in modern history, and that's precisely why he's been an aspirational example to so many for so long. On the other hand, he also downplays the genetic makeup and fortuitous timing that makes Arnold Arnold. Many have since tried imitating his path and failed. He's a rare blend of charisma, one of the best physiques in history, pure balls, and possesses an acute level of street smarts that surmounts the highest mountains, and he did it first. Now, in his twilight years, Arnold seems hell-bent on a blitzkrieg of legacy consolidation and refinement. Hot off the heels of a biographical docuseries, a daily ghost-written motivational fitness campaign, a diabolically horrible TV series, and even an upcoming kids' book, we have Arnold now playing the cuddly elder statesman, dispensing life advice and pearls of wisdom in his newly minted self-help book, Be Useful, 7 Tools for Life. It's an interesting choice of titles. I could have imagined some of the other brainstormed offerings that didn't make the boardroom cut, including How Dare You, or the obvious Fuck Your Freedoms. The number 7 likewise left me pondering the possible symbolism. In the Bible, the number 7 represents completion or perfection. We also have 7 days a week, 7 habits of highly effective people, 7 dwarves, 7 deadly sins, 7 seas, 7 swans are swimming, 7 colours of the rainbow, or 7 Olympia wins perhaps. Arnold explains that Be Useful was an often repeated rebuke that his father Gustav aimed at him in response to his obsession with bodybuilding at the time. Arnold's efforts, he argued, could be put to better practical use or service, chopping wood for example, or helping others. Just like the service that Gustav performed on the Eastern Front as part of the German Wehrmacht perhaps. It's an ironic revisionist homage to Gustav, who Arnold now redresses as a good dad. A confusing relabeling, as it was only recently that Gustav played the long-standing villain in Arnold's life narrative. A broken alcoholic wife-beating loser, as Arnold so often referred to him. A man content to eke out his remaining days in the inconsequential town of Graz, in an uninspiring life role as the town's ex-Nazi police chief. A man whose scorn and derision broke his older brother's spirit, driving him to drink and premature demise. The man whom Arnold credited for fueling his burning drive to leave, succeed, and never return. Regardless of the convoluted backstory, the title Be Useful itself isn't really useful advice. It's right up there with Think Positive, Be Yourself, Be More Confident, the same hollow tropes characteristic of the toxic positivity genre, crowding the bookshelves in the ironically labelled self-help sections. The book basically amounts to a 200-page resume-driven pep talk, exposing the reader once again to a remix of the same old stories, advice, and motivational cliches that Arnold repeats word for word, not only in his previous works, but in memorized sound bites in literally every interview or podcast that he takes part in. If you ran his ghost-written biography Total Recall through ChatGPT and asked it to shit out a ghost-written self-help book for dumb people, Be Useful would be a fair approximation. Only the most apologetic, vacuous, die-hard fanboy could label this hackneyed tripe anything but praiseworthy. This book isn't so much old wine in new bottles, it's the literary equivalent of a 3-day-old protein shake container left in the backseat of the car in a hot sun. It's on-the-nose prose, equally rancid and insulting to the intellectual palate. The overplayed bodybuilding metaphors sprinkled throughout alone will have you retching harder than any 20-rep set of squats on a full stomach. And speaking of AI-generated motivational shit, not even his daily ghost-written Pump Club is produced or read by him. He openly admits to using an Arnold-sounding computer-generated voice and trained to read the highly probable AI-written scripts. It's literally the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Adding insult to contradiction, Arnold then has the gall to go on the podcast circuit, lecturing people on the need to work hard and reject shortcuts. He laughably criticizes those using new weight loss drugs like Ozempic, saying that people don't want to engage in the pain of dieting, relying instead on drugs to do the heavy lifting for them. Hello? You didn't exactly raw dog it through your bodybuilding career. You swallowed and injected your fair share of drugs to shortcut the process. No one discredited you then, so why shit on others for engaging any available technology to do the same thing? The book itself is divided into 7 chapters. Chapter 1, Have a Clear Vision. Chapter 2, Never Think Small. Chapter 3, Work Your Ass Off. Chapter 4, Sell, Sell, Sell. Chapter 5, Shift Gears. Chapter 6, Shut Your Mouth and Open Your Mind. Chapter 7, Break Your Mirrors. Knowing that most people don't make it past the first chapter of any book, Arnold opens with a broadside against Trump, citing the January 6th Capitol debacle replete with similar covert snipes against the Donald throughout the book. And when it comes to Trump, it's not my country's politics. I don't have a dog in the fight, so I couldn't really give a shit either way about anyone's political inclinations. But comparing January 6th to the Nazi pogrom on Jewish people at Kristallnacht is both disingenuous and beyond ridiculous. It just amazes me that Arnold, for all his wise posturing, new age stoicism, and transparent virtue signaling, just can't let go of his persistent Trump derangement syndrome. Acquired from the time that Arnold shit the bed while hosting the TV show The Apprentice, he dive-bombed the show's ratings after Trump's unlikely celebrity catapulted it to an even more unlikely hit TV show. Trump publicly castigated Arnold on this failure, and he's been on Arnold's unforgiving shit list ever since. Now, this isn't anything new, of course. As Arnold's history clearly shows, whether it's Frank Zane's 1979 post-Olympia comments or Mensa's jabs at him in the muscle media, an infuriated Arnold just can't let a good slight go. And when he's not hanging out with Greta Thunberg, telling people to screw their freedoms, or adding his weight to a perennial scumbag Gavin Newsom's election campaign, Arnold the political chameleon is forever testing the winds for which way the zeitgeist is blowing, and leans in, no matter how much it alienates his former base. It's an MO currently aimed at deflecting past indiscretions in an ultra-sensitive woke #MeToo cancel culture, which he knows only far too well could derail his legacy with a single click of a send button. This sword of Damocles has transformed the former Man of Iron into the now seemingly Teflon-coated individual parading as a pale facsimile of the icon that he once was. Arnold wishes to now be viewed as the cuddly paternal elder statesman, dispensing stoic wisdom like a modern-day Marcus Aurelius, but as politically adept and street-savvy as he is, He just doesn't have the intellectual chops to offer anything of substance or even actionable by way of this book. It's once more a repetitively self-serving dinner table pep talk that would have anyone young enough to read this rolling their eyes exclaiming, "Okay, boomer." Arnold forgets that he come up in a bubble where hard work once produced a home, a family, regular vacations, and a respectable retirement for the average person. Hard work favoured previous generations while failing the current one. The result has been wealth inequalities, prohibitively expensive education, and costs of living necessitating that people work multiple jobs just to survive, let alone find any time to put in the 5-hour workouts that he had all the time and luxury in the world to execute back in the day. It's ironic that Arnold, who for years projected the image of Alpha Dog, now wants to redefine himself as the underdog, made good through his sheer effort and hard work alone. It's a revisionist narrative that's as insulting as it is pathetic. It truly pains me to have to constantly shit on the projects that Arnold's been producing in his remaining years, but like he told Lou in Pumping Iron, you just didn't get the timing right. Timing is everything, and Arnold needs to retire the tropes, the messianic complex, and disappear gracefully and concede the spotlight to somebody else for a change. Like so many in this game, I was inspired by the Arnold of old who said and did what he thought. He smoked his stogies where he wanted, and he lived with a penchant for political incorrectness. He was strong, funny, cocky, behaved badly, and acted unapologetically. He owned it, and we loved him for it. And in retrospect, even this is probably a stage-managed bullshit act to appeal to the masses from a very different era. Now he obfuscates and revises his past with ridiculous statements like, "I own who I am and the things I do, my successes and my failures. Why lie? What is the point of that?" You mean, Arnold, like lying and hiding the fact that you fathered a child with the maid for so many years from your wife and biological children? It's a bit rich when someone who couldn't even keep their marriage vows wants to lecture others on commitment and discipline. It's not surprising that both acting and politics lends itself to those psychopathically inclined. They're the career bastions of both professional liars and narcissists. And even if he's not a total hypocrite, it's silly for him to be giving life advice and shows just how out of touch he is with the common man. The shit in this book amounts to advice along the lines of, if you want to be governor, just become a famous movie star and leverage your popularity. Whether it's his plummeting testosterone levels or the side effects from living so long in a self-contained left-wing echo chamber, is this the best the Arnold we knew and love has to offer? Arnold is one of the greatest bodybuilders of all time, but would I ever take workout or nutrition advice from someone holding the genetic lottery ticket for muscle building? He's ghost-written, books in the past filled with shit advice and lies, leading countless thousands down paths of frustration and failure, applying his fairy tale double split 30 sets per body part, 5-hour-long workouts that he doubtless ever did, except to further mythologize his work ethic in the pages of the equally spurious muscle comics. So what makes anyone think that his life advice is any more applicable? Again, the man has undeniably worked hard for everything he's achieved, often against the odds, but he's also been the beneficiary of fortuitous timing, genetics, and an emotional makeup that makes him a massive outlier wired for the grind. Born 10 years too soon, or 10 years later, and there would be no Arnold that we know of today. He hasn't exactly rung the bell every time he's cast a movie, or his failed political career, so not even hard work has made his entire resume as bulletproof as he claims. By 1987, Arnold states that he killed 283 people on screen, but the book, Be Useful, is just another shovelful of dirt on the now expired legacy of Arnold, the legend we once loved.